All right, so today I wanted to go over a couple things about your first paper. The papers look quite good, and as usual, I've scanned them with my comments on them, so you've got direct feedback on the PDF files. Okay, a couple things to go over. References. Make sure that you only use references of things that you actually look at. If you've got a book from 1925 and you say that that author said something in 1925, it might be very interesting, but unless you've actually looked at it, you can't use it as a reference. That's because you're probably getting that information from somebody else who says what that author said, but how can you trust them? Good scholarship demands that you only reference or cite material that you yourself have looked at. You've checked out the book, or you've gotten the article, and you've gone right down to the page, and you find exactly what it is that they've said, and then you cite what page, oftentimes even it comes from in that item. Again, do not use .coms for reference material. If you want to look up what was the savanna ecosystem, why not go to a person, a scientist, or a museum website, or the Journal of Ecology, or something like this, which will give you, information from people who've spent their entire adult life studying savanna ecosystems rather than about.com or something like that. You can use that for the rest of your life, but in an academic environment, an academic class, those simply can't be used. You're mentioning early hominid adaptations, and just a very quick but important clarification. Oftentimes you mention the increased meat consumption of Homo. Yes, that's true, but instead of meat, use the term animal protein. That's important because it's not just meat they're after. In fact, they're after also the fat, which gives you more calories per unit than meat, and also marrow inside the bones. So it's a little more technically accurate and meaningful to say that hominids increased their animal tissue consumption rather than specifying meat consumption. Meat specifically means just muscle tissue. Number of people invoked or mentioned climate change. You've seen scientists saying that climate change influenced hominid evolution in this way or another. We have known for decades, for centuries, that climate change drives a great deal of evolution, and the term is used very commonly now because we have our own problems with climate change that is affecting the modern world. But a lot of people, frankly, are selling stories to the news and saying that climate change drove hominid evolution in one way or another. Yeah, but climate is part of environment, and you know that phenotypes are born into selective environments, and selective environments, climates are always changing, and so evolution has always been driven to one degree or another by some climate change, or I should say that climate change has always been a variety of selective pressure that can change the properties of life forms over time. So climate change, yeah, just be aware it's sort of a buzzword being used, and we've known for a long time in biology that climate change can drive evolution. You saw this handout, some factors involved in the evolution of Homo, the genus Homo. And one of these was culture. Just keep in mind really quickly, we'll talk about the elaboration of culture from now on, but culture is essentially the entire set of ideas that reside in an individual mind. It's shared among members of a population, so you say that they have a culture, but essentially all the sets of information, or the set of information, all the instructions essentially for what the universe is like and what you're supposed to do about it. How are you supposed to act appropriately in the world you find yourself in? That's culture. That's culture. And that information evolves and it accumulates. It's a cumulative process such that over time the cultural information that Homo carries around in their brain, how to make a stone tool, what type of stone to use, what time of day to get inside because of such and such predator, what to do if such and such predator arrives. All that cultural information, yes, it becomes much more elaborate, and it's the key for survival. It's how we survive. Yeah, we survive by making stone tools, but the instructions for how to make that stone tools, right? That stone tool, that's cultural information. So culture, very critically important concept, increasingly now as we look at evolution of Homo. Be aware that we now have Aurorin, this new genus of hominid at 6 million years old, and it is bipedal clearly, and it has evolved bipedality, it appears, in current studies. Now this is only 10-year-old information, but Aurorin appears as though it evolved in a forested environment, such that we have bipedalism occurring in a forested environment and not an adaptation to this new savanna ecosystem that starts to replace the heavily jungle ecosystem of Central Africa around 2 million years ago. So the old idea that I was even taught as an undergraduate, that we become bipedal as an adaptation to the savanna environment, doesn't appear that's the case. Bipedalism goes back to 6 million, perhaps even in forested environments, and nobody really knows right now how or why it evolved. Don't believe anyone if they tell you they know. We haven't sorted that out yet. I think that's all I wanted to say today. Just wanted to cover a few of those things. I'm going to be returning your PDFs right now. It'll take me a couple hours. And then we'll continue on this week. A lot of very interesting material about what is going on with this coevolution of the body and the mind, what's going on in the mind of the early hominids, and critically important, the evolution of language to communicate all of that cultural information. All right, great. We'll talk to you later.